So on your pieces, on the outside piece, so choose whichever. I've got the outside and inside, well you can do it on both, it really doesn't matter. You need to measure 3/4 of an inch from the edge along the long edge. So you just want to be able to see that. It doesn't have to be, you're not going to see it later or it's going to be covered over. So just do it on all 4 edges. Okay, and then grab your zipper and just do your little stitches. So there you go, I've done it in pink so you can see what that looks like. So next you're going to grab turn your zipper over so it's facing right side of the zipper that you're going to see to the right side of your pouch or your bag, and then get right on that little mark that we just made. Okay, so now we're going to attach our zipper. Sometimes what I do is I fold it in half, and we know the halfway point of our zipper, and I will line them up and clip each way, because when you sew these usually you get a lot further than when you just clip it together. So it might be slightly shorter, but once you've stitched it, it's going to get all the way to that end. And then you might want to do it one inside from the inside out. That often helps. And you can detach it as well, and that also will make it easier because we can just put it back together later on, and then you've got less bulk to worry about. Okay, so now we've attached our zipper to the outer fabric, we're going to lay the lining part on top. So just clip those together. few clips. Right, and then we are going to start from the bottom edge, the two raw edges at the bottom, and go up the short side and then across the top of the long side with an 1/8 of an inch, no, a 1/4 inch seam allowance, sorry. That's perfect. And just keep the bottom edges lined up. Okay, and then sometimes I go around the corners again just to reinforce them. So when you trim them, you don't want them to fall apart. So then I'll just trim the bit of my zipper and the corners. Okay, I've got my knitting needle again, so we're going to turn it through. And then just push out the corners very gently with your knitting needle. So they're nice and neat. And now we're going to, I just finger press these sides, but then we're going to go press our other bits and we'll be back. Now that we've made our zipper sides and we've pressed them, we're ready to put our piece of pellon in. And what I usually do is just lie it flat and just quickly have a look and see, because sometimes just with seam allowances and stuff, it doesn't, you might have just a bit too much, which I do, and then that's not going to go in very well. Alright, so you can trim it at that point. It should be fine the other way. Right, so we want to, if you've got single-sided stickiness, you want the stickiness to go towards the outside. So basically I just shove it right in with the seam allowance behind the pellon. And it can be a bit fiddly. And sometimes you still need to trim it because it's decided that it's a bit too long. Sometimes it's just that it's not pushed in very well, so you just need to fiddle with it a bit. Okay, and then once you've got that in, go press it down. Okay, so we've pressed it down. It is quite tricky to get it right into the edges, but it's quite important to do that if you can. If you don't have fusible, then just clip it together to hold it in place, because when you top stitch it, you don't want it to move. Okay, so now we're ready to top stitch. So from down the short end all the way across, and then down the other short end. Okay, so now we're going to top stitch. Once we've done our top stitching, we want to baste along the bottom edge, which will make it easier to put it in the rest of the case. So just 1/8 of an inch from the edge. And now we're ready to put it into our case. Okay, before we carry on, we need to put our corners, our rounded corners on our bag. So all 4 corners, let's just mark them. And once you've marked them, trim them. You can stitch on this line first and then trim them, or you can trim them and then stitch around, but I recommend reinforcing what you've these corners before you do the next step. so now we're ready to put our zipper sides into our pouch. First of all, just make a little mark, which will be our sort of halfway mark across. So it should be about at 5 inches. And then I start clipping. This is the part that your machine may struggle with a little bit. Okay. And then just clip all the way around. Okay. Now I recommend when you sew this in, you either hand baste it together. You don't have to go through all of the layers, just as long as it's in place and it's not going to move. Or you sew from the middle all the way around to one side, and then from the other middle all the way back the other way, which obviously one side is going to be a bit trickier to do than the other, but you want it to be even on both sides, and if it isn't, you might be a bit annoyed. So to save your annoyance, I would either do basting or start from one side and work your way around. That is my recommendation. Ooh, did we get that one? Alright, so we've clipped it in place, and you just have to make sure that it's all inside, or the seam allowance is heading out of the bag, and we're almost there. You're doing great. You can also, don't go all the way, just do like 1/8 of an inch. Like I wouldn't go all the way in, because you're going to put the binding on later, and you don't want to have to worry too much about not seeing previous stitching. So this is really just to baste it together. Ruby. Okay, so we've got it in on one side, it's all good. Now we just have to do the other side. Sometimes I just do it in sections. Okay, so now we've got to put our zip in. So what we need to do first is just, if you have taken off your zip, you need to just put the other half back on. Right. And then you should have marked before the halfway point on your zip, or if you have the halfway point on your zipper sides, that's fine. And then you need to mark about the halfway point on your cover, on your top bit. Because I usually start from there and clip it all the way around. And again with this, you want to start with from the sewing it on, just basting it on from the middle, so from here, and go outwards both sides, so you'll turn it upside down, because when you put the binding on, again you can get much closer to the teeth and you don't want to be able to see your stitching, because that's annoying. And at this point you can see how it's going to look. Okay, so before you attach this bit, you want to detach your zipper again, and then you'll be ready to attach your zipper or stitch it on. So as I said, I start from the middle. Just watch out for the end of your open zipper. Cool, it's looking good. our zipper is on. And now we're ready to do the binding. I was a bit keen before. So we can attach it.